Welcome to part 2 of our talk with Ambrosia and Heather. In this segment, we learn how the Protein for All program became part of the Parents for Parents program in Spokane County, Washington.
So you took my talk and then you presented it to the commissioners about this concept, Protein for All.
Well, we put it out there, and I think they were like, yeah, wow, that's great, but there's no food allowed in the lobby. So sorry, can't do it. That sign's been there, and we don't know how to take it down. On the wall,
the
right?
building would fall down if we took down that one sign.
Yeah, we were like, oh, and like, so instant shot down, instantly, like, can't do it. Wouldn't work. We don't even have the money to do that. It's just, you don't have food in the lobby. You just don't do that. We've never done that. We're not going to do that. And there's like talk about like ants and, stains in the carpet and food is going into the courtroom. Yeah. Just like total chaos. Right.
So I think, Heather, if I remember correctly, we then got intentional about it being in the classes because we could have food, right? And I remember there being this period of time where I called them the protein fairies, where the stakeholders in the system started bringing protein bars and protein shakes and donating it to us. They would just drop it off at the office, just random people, whether it was an AAG, a parent's attorney, probably even Commissioner Ressa. I didn't always know or see the person that dropped it off,
And then sometime in 2015, probably in August, after that Children's Justice Conference, Commissioner Ressa with Kelly Warner King invited me to Spokane, and Commissioner Ressa basically said, if you're going to come to my court, you have to come to this meeting. And Tim's like, how's she gonna get the AGs to come and because she's not in charge of them, right? There's a whole bunch of people she is not in charge in,
right? And
she's just like, you're gonna show up at noon. And Kelly helped, I did a little presentation, and then there was a little planning on how are you going to execute on this, and then I was to come back 4 months later.
Well, I don't know if that was the initial plan. I think that was the behind the scenes plan, but I remember it as there were 3 ideas. So it was about innovating and court improvement.
Yeah.
And there were 3 ideas thrown out there, right? Yours was one of them. And we went in, we broke out into smaller groups, and we decided so it was team protein for all and team, oh gosh, I can't remember the other ideas because they didn't win, right? So there were these 3 groups, of smaller groups, and they were all working on okay, well, how will we do this and how will we execute it? And I think the Protein for All group was the biggest, and we worked on the plan of okay, well, what's the pros and cons? What are the challenges? How are we, and what are the 3 steps to make this, implement this.
Yeah.
And and it won out at the end of this meeting. And then you were invited back, right?
And then I was invited back, and everybody left the first meeting with tasks to do. And then when I came back and I was like, so I have a list of what everybody was going to do. And you were the only one who actually executed.
Right?
Everybody else was I was really busy.
They're Heather, go for it. And that's how I got the green light. It was, but that sign is still up.
So then the next phase that because I would go away, and then I would get this, and things would be happening in Spokane, and then somebody would call me or pull me back in, and because I wasn't I knew that this was happening, but I don't think it clicked in that this was a thing yet. I didn't see that the grassroots movement was growing. I just you know, like people were taking on the concept, which, you know, like I was excited about, and I was excited to support what was happening, but I didn't see it quite as a thing. And then I get this email that was to everybody in the court saying, from whoever was in charge of the courthouse, I don't remember their name, but it was like this really top-down email, like, there will be food in the lobby because Dr. Allott said that it's important. And it was just the one woman who had been sitting behind the plated glass for 30 years. It was just like, not putting a nux on everything.
I think when she retired, I mean, did she retire around the same time that we got it approved, or it was
a little after?
Whoa, wait,
Yeah.
I remember people are like, oh, we'll just wait until she retires. And someone decided that they couldn't wait. And we're going to change the rule.
Yeah, because some people never.
But I think that took a lot of legwork on either Heather, both of you apart, going around the court and getting a lot of agreements so that whoever held all the purse strings and the authority could just be like, this is happening.
Well, I think the attorneys noticed, you know, because Ambrosia was up there a lot, you know, and we took into consideration, and I'm pretty sure it was your thought that brought it along about parents that, you know, protein bars just aren't for everybody. You know what I mean? And having shakes as an option too. But shakes are more expensive. So, you know, just where are we going to get this money? And I think that we got some positive feedback from the attorneys who were meeting with clients after we met with them. You know, very, very often we get positive feedback from attorneys about how it's their clients are much more calm and open and easier to talk to if we approach them first. You know, we de-escalate them. It was just, you know, connecting with them and taking a moment to relate and offer hope. And so I think they also noticed that their time with them was shortened by the fact that they had eaten something, or, you know, or they had a protein shake in their hand. That they felt like that their time with that parent was more effective and more quality time. More efficient, you know, too. So
Ambrosia, so Ambrosia, somewhere along the way you had this aha about protein being offered.
I remember, so when we started giving protein out at like shelter cares and other hearings, and I started to realize that like parents' walls went down if I was like, hey, have you ate today? You know, and they're like, no, I haven't eaten in 3 days. And I'm like, do you want a protein bar or a protein shake? And they're like, yes, you know, more often than not. In fact, probably almost 80 to 90% of the times, yeah, they wanted something. And I ended up realizing there is this universal way that we show love and care is by food within my own family system, within my own community. In other cultures, that's how they do it. Like they show love and care with food, right? And so why wouldn't we come in and do the same and be modeling that? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. You know, like the idea that offering food is universally culturally appropriate. Like in this moment where we are really studying cultural appropriateness and how to resolve conflict between other people. Like, you know, I mean, historically, what cultures did when you met a foreigner is you offered them food because it lowered the likelihood that you were going to kill each other, right? Because you know, you just always do culturally inappropriate things. right? Because you don't know what the rules are, and parents coming into dependency court like have no idea what the rules are.
Yeah, and then when like we had the cheat sheets at some point that you like helped put together with other parent allies and stuff, and it just became like second nature when I was talking to a parent in the lobby to be like, not only do you want this to eat, you can eat it in the lobby, please be sure to throw the wrapper away. Because again, we had the lady that, you know, so we wanted to be super respectful of the opportunity that we got. But then also like teaching them that, gosh, when I haven't eaten the 3 days like you're talking about, like I'm super reactive. I'm in what's called my lizard brain. I can't think through solutions. I'm overwhelmed. But it can be as simple as putting some protein into my brain and calming that down and coming in with more solutions and being just calmer and seeing, you know, maybe the bigger picture of things, and less reactive. And you're going to then go into the courtroom with that better brain on, not the lizard brain, the better brain that can help you get through this really hard time.
Yeah. And
it's like the worst day of a parent's life.
Yeah.
And if you haven't eaten 3 days and it's the worst day of your life and you don't know what's happening, you know, and the stranger comes to you that looks like a Heather or an Ambrosia and is like, much like Heather talked about earlier, we look like a them, but we're a parent, just like you. Right? We might look like the rest of the professionals in the system, but we're modeling that. You might see me come rushing in with my own protein drink and water because these are things that are important and I want to model that to you.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
We also then would, in the Hope class, teach parents about the importance for kiddos when they're visiting them in protein. And we facilitated on or in our facilitation notes, we would talk about how like our kids are super excited. They're coming to see us. They get to see mom and or dad. And, you know, maybe we brought a bunch of sugar because it was their birthday and we didn't know yet the importance of balancing that with some protein also. And, you know, it's time for them to go back to the placement family and boom, they crash. And they're sad. They're leaving mom and dad again. They have to go back to this place, whether it's, you know, what they want to do or not. And they're crashing from sugar. And that can look like they're regressing from seeing us, or at least we wouldn't ever want it to be perceived that way. So it can be as simple for kiddos to bring cheese sticks even, you know, boiled eggs. It doesn't have to be super expensive. And then we would reiterate that cheese sticks don't work for our brains the same way that it does for little kiddos, right? So our protein needs to be a little bit more intentional. But yeah, protein is important. Our kids need to be out of their lizard brain too.
Yeah.
And have better emotional capacity because their glucose levels aren't spiked and dipped and looking like a roller coaster. And we also use that opportunity to educate professionals about the value of gas station burritos. You know, a lot of visitation monitors would write that, you know, oh, they brought a gas station burrito, or, you know, something like that. And it's like, actually, that's a really good choice because there's protein in that gas station burrito. And, you know, these are parents who are, they don't have the privilege of, you know, preparing a home cooked meal in a home they don't have. So we're having convenience. So then we get to educate the parents about, you know, the convenience foods that are available that have protein, and educate the professionals about how actually to have any perspective on that choice of a parent bringing, you know, to a visit.
And as I've done more speaking to food in professionals who are working with food insecure populations, they're just so relieved that I'm like, yeah, go to the gas station and get the hot dog or the burrito or whatever, because it's on the bus route, it's protein, and you can afford it. right?
Yeah.
You know,
Boiled eggs are amazing for that. They're pretty packable. You don't necessarily, if you eat them within a few hours, I don't care if they're like refrigerated or cold or whatever, they're in their shell, right? So I feel like they're really portable and super inexpensive.
Mhm.
yeah.
Good balance of macros, carbs, protein, the fat.
Yeah. So for somebody who hasn't seen parents come to their first shelter care hearing and are like, really, is a protein bar or protein shake going to make such a difference? Like, what do you actually see in those moments? In that, like, I mean, we all understand like compassion is going to help and empathy is going to help, and that's all really important. And people really don't believe how powerful just a protein bar can be.
It's almost like it's too simple. Like if it was that simple, why haven't we been doing it? And so therefore it's not the solution. So
Right. Why have they figured that out before this? And why is there a bunch of, and maybe it's because it's so simple that you miss, everything's got to be so complicated. For me, when I approach a parent at shelter care and seek to connect with them and empower them, offering them food, like I said, it was one of the missing pieces of the interaction, and it was a key piece, because you see the lights go on, like you're talking to them and that all their defenses are up, and they're doing what they need to do to survive that moment, right? And even though like you're an ally, they are of course skeptical and not unsure, right, and uncertain and scared, and whatever behaviors that they're displaying to armor up for that moment, is on. And a lot of times there's just nobody's home, and they're glazed over, and so all of these techniques that we are using and just human, behaviors that connect us, that sinks in. It sinks in and it actually happens pretty quickly. And I know it takes a minute for food to get in your bloodstream, right, and get into your brain. But parents are at court, especially shelter care hearings, for an undetermined amount of time. It could be 1 hour, it could be 5 hours. Somewhere along your interaction, maybe it's when you're getting them the resources you need after having a 15-minute conversation with them, and maybe it's when they get out of the booth from talking to their attorney, but you see it and they're present, and you can see their wheels turning, and you can see the light in their eyes, and you can see them working things out.
I didn't really quite understand the full importance in offering parents food when we were first doing that, the protein bars and protein shakes. But fast forward maybe a year or two into it, like I would be at 12-step meetings or some kind of community event or the grocery store, and parents would be like, oh, you're that lady that gave me that protein bar on the worst day of my life, or like crying at 12-step meetings, like you have no idea what that meant for me, even though I didn't want to talk to you any further. I hadn't eaten in 3 days or 4 days, and I was starving. And just that simple giving me that drink or that protein bar, you have no idea what that meant. In addition to like also, if a parent is sitting, kneeling lower than them, like that power, that implied power differential, right? Like, and the way we speak to parents, treating them like human, looking them in the eye, not just standing over them with a clipboard. which, you know, and that culture started changing in the court system too. I started seeing professionals either sit next to the parent they were talking to, or sometimes kneeling too. And I was like, wow, yes.
Yeah, and actually, you know, Ambrosia and I both have our own personal experiences with trying, you know, the protein for all way of eating. I'm a big advocate for not asking anybody to do something that I wouldn't do myself. And so, you know, right away, I tried out 3 days of an insane amount of protein, right? So, and just a bite full of, you know, turkey, right, before bed. I've noticed helps me not get up so many times during the night, and waking up and getting protein in my body, drinking protein within 20 minutes after I work out for my muscles, right? Having a little bit of protein, you know, a good balance, right, of the protein, fat, and carbs. We got to get you know, we got to break that the barrier to get the protein to our brain. So it's nice to have, you know, I mean, I don't want to go too far overboard. And I used to think that I needed, you know, 160 grams of protein a day, or, you know, or 200, right? And realize, like, I don't really need that much unless I'm like bodybuilding, right? But that my brain is the most important muscle that I need to feed, you know. And as a person with trauma, just doing this work, I've realized that I walk around triggered more than I ever realized. And once I started becoming more mindful, and practicing, you know, awareness and mindfulness of what's going on inside me while what's going on outside of me and how they interact. And I realized how reactive that I've been, and how, you know, shame just spirals me. And just the power, the answer and the power is keeping my brain fed with protein, you know, and connecting with my breath. And I mean, it's really key, and it's hard to explain all that to somebody in the 2 minutes that you have with them at a shelter care hearing, in the, you know, within the 5 to 7 minutes that you actually get with them before somebody else needs to take them and explain, like, the whole 1 year court process and all the legal, you know, all the legal advice and steps and strategies. But I think that we've been able to do a really good job. And I believe Parents for Parents programs across Washington state all have their own style of implementing protein for all, and realizing the importance, you know, just by self-exploration with it.
Yeah. And the thing that I've loved about the Spokane program, of the programs that I know about, and there are Protein for All program and Parent Ally programs that I'm not interacting with, but like, it's a community project, right? And protein's important. Is it as important as compassion? Is it as important as connecting? I don't know, but like, it is one of the many building blocks that is needed. And you guys have paired the connection and the empathy and the compassion and the personal presence with food. And so, and everybody at least is aware of it, in that, like, the parent allies are aware of it. The lawyers are aware of it. Like, I hear the lawyers try and practice it. The judges, at least a few judges, practice it. The administrators know about it. And so, like, there's a system that's all trying to do exactly what you just named, Heather, which is, like, we all have some trauma, and And certainly working within the dependency court, you are going to pick up secondary trauma, even if you had a perfect childhood. But like, like we all need to feed our brain in order for us to be at our best selves. And like, why would we not choose that? And I love that Spokane has really made that a cultural thing. In other counties, like sometimes there's just a basket and like, here you need food, here's some food, that's going to help, but it's not putting the connection together so that a parent can come up 2 years later and be like, oh, when I went to my first shelter care hearing and I reached into the basket, I felt better, because like there are too many other things going on. They're not tracking that. I mean, maybe some, but more people are going to track that and use it later on in their life, because you're like, I'm feeding you so that you can be in your smart brain rather than your reactive brain. Eat this, and in a few minutes you will feel better. And they're like, and again, not all of them are going to notice, but the ones who are capable of, like, there it is.
I know this protein for all when Heather went on to other greater things in her career path and started her own business, I ended up becoming the Parents for Parents program coordinator. It also went from being under the courts to under Catholic Charities. Rising Strong program, which is like this program where parents can opt in and heal their whole family together and avoid children going to foster care. And I started bringing classes in there, and I brought the Protein for All as a class in there. I wrote some curriculum around it and educated the parents there. And I traded Heather's idea, which was really important, and I hope someday we have funding for both, but about the planner. And I decided to take that money that was going to about $1.50 a planner, or maybe it was $1.25, and put it towards protein instead, and was bringing that into the classes at Rising Strong from Parents for Parents, and started bringing them to every class that Parents for Parents did. And we started having our advisory committee underneath Rising Strong's, I don't know what they called it, but their kind of advisory committee, right? Or planning committee. And I was there, and I would have like 10 minutes on the schedule, and I was talking about this, and I said the connection about food is universally the way we show love. And there was a representative there from a foundation, Empire Health Foundation, that was like, ding, 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 ding. What? Oh, we're funding you. And I was like, what just happened? I'm gonna reach out to some of these protein bars and protein shake places. Let me take this under, like, we want to fund you for a year, and we're going to try to find some buy-in and put some matching dollars towards it. And like, we got a whole bunch of protein out of that. Like, she followed through, and it was amazing, and it was something about that connection to food and love. Food and care. Yep.
Yeah. Like I think the parent ally story, getting how you guys like freshly sober, freshly out of the court system, like we're just like, okay, we're going to do hope classes, and we don't know how to do it. We just know what we wanted. And we're going to do what we think is the next best thing that we actually have in control. And like I talk to people who are newly sober all the time, and they're like, I've never done that. How could I do that? And I'm like, well, what's a step that you can take? And they're like, no, I can't do anything until they're 1 year sober, 3 years sober, 5 years. And I know that's different for each person, but
it's great role modeling.
It's great role modeling, and that just joining something that was important to you when you were trying to do important things for everybody else. Like, I think that's a really important message. Like I really heard what you said, Heather, and that you're like, I do not have time for this, and stop bothering me that I should do this, internal self. I'm just gonna go take
I know.
I'm gonna just take notes because then I'm showing up and you traveled at least the United States. And have you done international travel with Parent Allies?
Yeah. Me and Heather got to go to Scotland and help create the International Parent Advocacy Network.
Right. So like, because you guys formed this partnership that you were going to support the other person regardless of what was happening and support the idea, it's now happening in Scotland.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, I think they have their own stuff, but we're working together with what they've done. But I'll tell you, Washington State takes the lead on a lot of things. We set the bar and we take the lead on a lot of movements for parent advocacy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of little stuff that is very amazing going on in Australia, in Norway, in Scotland, and it's all over the UK and Canada, and it's a collective consciousness sort of experience, and we're all coming together and forming this international network. And so it's pretty amazing. There's a website, there's a toolkit. We're starting a parent leadership training program. We have Porticus Foundation and the UBS, like the World Bank, and Better Care Network. We're in partnership with them. We just put out a newsletter with them, and
the Oak Foundation.
The Oak Foundation is is one of our funders. We've got grants. It's pretty just insane. It's just impossible to think about. But honestly, we want to go and make the world a better place, and empower families with some of the experiences that we've had with our families and what was empowering to us in when we were in our darkest hour and caught up in these complex systems that just don't really understand how to serve families. Unfortunately, they're doing their best and they're modeling what they know, which is the criminal justice system. You know what I mean?
Parents with Lived Child Welfare System, we are the solution. And the bigger solution in that I've learned from Heather and I's story in this process is when we find connection and we find purpose, that explodes our recovery. That explodes our healing. Like, those are the answers for me. And I've seen it work for others.
Yeah. Wow.
Gosh, thank you, Kristen, for doing like the hard, like, brain, the research and the, I mean, like, I bet it's grueling, all the hours and months and years of studying and researching and just all of the work that I don't even know that it's taken to get to this point where you can simplify it and just give a parent a protein bar. You like all of the hard intellectual work that's gone behind that, to get it that simple about, like, it can't be true because it's that simple, can't go like unrecognized, because it definitely there's a lot of work that goes behind figuring out that something's that simple.
Yeah. Well, it's my clients who taught me all that. I think how I'm a little different than some physicians is I want my patients to understand what's happening in their body. I am not going to be the expert in their body. I have some understanding about what might be going on, but like, we all have to be experts on our own body. And I'm very passionate about that. And you guys, like run with that. Like you've each told me different stories about things that you've done to explore, and like they're really different. And you know, like you guys care for your bodies and do self-care so that you can show up for other people, and learning that that's not a selfish act to take care of yourself, that that's actually like the least selfish act you can do to take care of yourself and your body so that you have more capacity to help other people. That is what you go out in the world and do every day. And I so appreciate that. And, you know, and as I go out of the world, like people are always like, so what are you doing? I'm like, there are these parent allies and they are just like the most amazing people in the whole wide world. Because, you know, the practice of self-care on an emotional, physical, spiritual levels, like that, as you say, that's attractive, and people will find you to figure out what is that you're doing.